So 2 p.m. on the open session. Please.
Final understanding.
Please. Go ahead, Bill. Okay, first on our study session is draft budget for 2020, which would be our final. Appreciate you go forward with it. We also have the resolution for the budget and also our certification of work. So with that, I put all, we're going to kind of group them all together. Certification of the mill levy. Right now, let me pull that. We can charge 17.96 mils. With the way we did the budget, everything, we're almost at saving the taxpayers 1 mil because we're under budget. So we're trying to save as much. Or I think last year, I think we were at 1.6 that we saved taxpayers in mill levy. Or this year, we're almost out. It's 0.9, 0.98, which is almost a full mil. So we're trying to help out wherever we can, saving money for our community. Before we go on, any questions, Bob? How much you got for the mill? Per mill, I believe it was like $60,000. Well, so what happened? How much would that be? Well, the average plastic on every lot probably maybe $1 per 100,000.
Didn't redline it.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. So, any questions on the budget? Anybody see anything on the that? Went through and I know Neil had a few concerns. We went through back and forth with it. We got them straightened out. Everything was up to date as of November on it, as for expected. There was one thing that I did add is on the bottom of the last of all of it was what we kind of had in reserves per fund in year to year. That's where we're going, and that's under that column of when you look at as current year forecast. Yes, I put down what our current year forecast is, what we would still have in the bank in that time. Jim, we talked about first on transfers that were all first. Yes. And I don't see them in there. Yes, they are. You look under the maintenance side. There's no number. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. Interfund transfer. You have an interfund transfer on the pro side of 50,000, and then on the maintenance side was the expenditure of an interfund transfer going on. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. No, it's under actually your expenses under the total O&M. It shows non-potable water that we are charging. 40,000. Yeah. Questions?
Christy, how do you feel about the budget?
I'm happy.
Think it all came together pretty well.
It was a lot, but we got through it.
Do you have see any strengths or weaknesses or things that we really need to watch for in the year coming? Okay.
Nope, I think you're doing a wonderful job.
Okay.
There was one issue that I see was in admin. We will have an election this year.
Yes.
So there was $5,000 that usually between $3,000 and $5,000 for holding the election. And Polk County will be running it because they just got their voters list to set up for
They're going to run it.
Yes, they were. They didn't want to have to pay us yet.
So did you put, is that in the budget here?
That's the only place, but I think we have enough. wiggle room
We have
with
enough to cover it, but if we need to do an amendment. we can put it in.
Okay, the question is, I guess we haven't adopted the budget, should it be added?
I don't mess with the numbers right now.
No.
I think because we're gonna be high in a lot of areas. I think we put a little padding and everything in the expenditure side.
Road revenue,
Road revenue, that's under roads.
I know, but I'm just saying that number looked
Yeah,
pretty juicy.
and,
Okay.
and anything that we have that, we have, depreciation. I have $20,000 in depreciation for that. So I know we can probably pull it out of there if we want to. With 15,000 on this building, which is being probably depreciated out since it's already 25 years old.
So, you mentioned depreciation,
Mm-hmm.
we gotta keep getting that up there.
And we're trying to, the only one that we had issues with was, the pool, Parks and Rec, we run a pretty tight budget because we're trying to also assist in Valley First in grant, proceeds going. You have matching money for grants, so that's why you don't have as much depreciation in there. Once we get that built out, we can start putting that money back into depreciation. Okay, so next we have the road policy. The road policy, there was quite a few changes, but it was just numerically and how she had it. I sent you guys a red line copy. I've shown there's a lot of just that, and also instead of putting streets in there, we used roads because we have streets, we have boulevards, we have drives, we have all that. So if we just put roads in it, it would cover anything from street to drive to boulevard to the road.
We did define district roads, so I think that I'm happy with that. There's a couple of them, even after the red line, there were, a couple of things that she put some list. But, that just basically would, so I'm happy with this stuff.
Yeah, one question. This is either for Clint or for Jim. I noticed a lot of people around the valley are using that slag for driveways.
Mhm.
How do you think that's going to come back? Is it connected to the road?
The biggest problem we have is when we go to locate lines,
Oh,
because of
the metallic.
the metallic in it, you walk around with your finder and it's tough.
My understanding is I tried to get a road tonight, they can't get it anymore because EPA's out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was wondering.
Okay.
We
So,
don't.
did you, red lines?
Yeah, I did.
Were you okay with that?
Yeah, I think that's good. This place is where culverts required for washout.
And the reason we put in other access on there is, some people have a circular driveway.
Or she.
So it was gonna be one of those that, okay, we're gonna charge you for the first one, and we'll talk about the second one as what we wanna charge you. So charging you $250 for both of them, if we're expecting both of them at the same time, we can. So that's why it says other access estimated actual cost.
How soon in the process do we determine whether they're gonna need a culvert?
It's usually pretty much up front, because you'll see where that drainage is, and, you know, if it's that, you look at like the Corner Verde, there isn't too much, it's just a pan that they need. Whereas, kind of like Ray's house, maybe, they'll need a culvert because there is, at least a 10-inch drop from the road to his driveway.
Who makes the determination whether the culvert is required or swale?
That would be up to like me, Aiden, Greg, looking at it and saying, let's look at this and figure it out first. I know I'm looking at going into a couple of the storm, service meetings and stuff to get a little bit more knowledgeable on that for stormwater.
Anything else, George? Just go ahead, man.
Okay, next you have, amended, and retained resolution of the board for, covenant enforcement policy and, accordance with adopting a covenant enforcement policy in accordance with HB 4-1267. There were, like I said, the only changes I really had and the board had was to take out the anonymous. We made that change so that way, you know, you have to, if you're going to file a complaint, that's one of those issues that you need to know who it was. If I have a complaint on me, I like to know, is it my neighbor? Is it other than that, like I said, it also addresses chickens and dumpsters within it. The only issue I had with it was, I think the fire structure is a little bit steep. I think we just have to, where it might be a little bit more sensible. But other than that, I think it's a good policy to put in place, to get something started. One of the issues that I see is, you know, we do give them opportunities and they thumb our nose at us, but at the same aspect of it, I think also I'm tired of getting my nose thumbed at us too.
Or get mine.
Getting thumbed at us. You're not gonna do anything about it. So either you're gonna have something in place to move forward or not even worry about it. That's my opinion as being all the way across. Would,
Mr. Chairman,
sure,
have some prepared remarks.
please do.
My theme tonight is, this is the country, not the country club. I'm going to start by reading the back 2 paragraphs of this proposed policy. In accordance with the business judgment rule and due to the limited resources of the district for enforcement and the difficulty of inspecting private backyards, at this time the district shall not pursue enforcement actions against residents who own up to 6 chicken pens for generating food for the home. This shall not apply to those owning chickens for commercial purposes. And I guess if you have some loud roosters, you might have a county problem for noise. But that's between the hen and the hen house and the county. And then the last paragraph in this policy proposed, nothing herein shall be construed to prevent future amendments to this policy by the board of directors, or to establish vested property rights or waive the right to enforce covenants in the future. Nothing herein shall prevent residents from privately enforcing covenants. So it means that the Metro Board has taken this on as a community service. It doesn't prevent individual citizens from doing their own, actions against neighbors that they believe are violating code. And I need to communicate a little bit with my fellow board members. This is for my colleague that's worried that we will have to enforce every covenant. We can selectively enforce covenants and not others by remembering the business judgment rule, which stipulates that you can only do what you have the resources and means to do. And we don't have many. We are considering, with legal direction, employing the business judgment rule with the chicken issue. We are admitting with this rule that we don't have the means to go checking people's backyards to see for what they've got in terms of pets and animals. We can't. As long as we're consistent in what we do enforce, we're good. This is for my colleague that's worried about feuding neighbors. If we take the step to use House Bill 1267 as a foundation to stand on, we can be the referee that keeps neighbors from feuding with neighbors. And when employing the business judgment rule, we simply have to lay it out that we are looking to manage the high order of concerns in protecting property values. Those would be including getting housing to abide by the form argument that's in most of our covenants. Houses should face the street the correct way, and houses should not be campers or tents or shipping containers. And then in regards to finding, and I agree with the manager on this, we don't want to focus too much on enforcing the petty fines, but I do think we need to enforce the fines on the big items, like housing and stuff like that. I don't think we should be fining the Joneses for weeds or horse trailers or piles of wood in their yard. Again, using the business judgment rule, we are allowed to use our financial and human resources best. And if we don't have to fine and litigate what we don't have the resources for. And if we don't like the fine structure, we can pass the policy and we can differ with that. We can change that. We can move it down. We can do what we want. For my colleague concerned with finding campers takes too long, campsites are also a violation of the form argument in the covenant. But this is much more potent step than just writing a letter and watching futilely while the county does nothing and getting our noses thumbed at. And how does the county get away with doing nothing? Well, they actually employ the business judgment rule. They don't have the resources to take care of all of our concerns. So they don't. That's how it works. I don't like anonymous complaints. I'd like to deal with that. And for my colleague who believes it's time to quit kicking the can down the road and do something, I couldn't agree more. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Board?
I don't agree with that. I don't think, I think it has to be consistent, and there's already too many covenants that aren't followed. So how can, you can find somebody for one thing, and we have our covenant, and some of our covenants are so outdated, and I understand you're saying that we don't, but that doesn't mean it's not gonna be brought up, that we're not following all of them.
Quick question on the covenants. Are we able to search the website?
Hold on. We'll get you to it. Hold on.
I had a couple policy questions actually to start out with, and then I got a few things that also. On number 7, the penalties, where did the fine amounts come from? Is that the maximum that can be fined?
That was a discussion with CCHC. I left Bob to see, kind of help draft the policy.
Okay.
Then the amounts there were just discussed and what it would take for somebody to take action. That there was nothing out of any other statute or anything that brought these figures up. It was just a what will somebody took action. So, in the previous, meeting, those can be changed, as you already said. But that's the reason, there's nothing that was based on the county,
It wasn't,
state,
Okay, so it wasn't just a number given to.
no, it was a number that we felt, that would make somebody correct the issue.
Good. And I think a lot of the first time was when we had a discussion about, certifying liens on property, which we do for our AOS fees. It's a minimum of $150 to certify it to, the county. So that's, I think, where that first line came out is, it was in that discussion, it has to be $150 before you certify, which if I get a fine, okay, the first fine could be $50. And if you're not taking me serious, make the next fine $150 or $120, now it's $170, now we can certify that lien.
Okay, my next question is on number 8, new construction. CCAOC will review all new applications, new construction for broken fences, shed, garage, carports in Colorado City. Now, there are many areas of Colorado City that already have existing HOAs. That doesn't exclude the existing HOAs. Or the HOAs, like if you're in Meadowbrook, you have a series of requirements for the HOA, and you can't get that board to do something. Are these people going to now go to Colorado City? Because there's nothing excluding Colorado City from going into another HOA, because units 1 through 45 is not excluded, or it's not included in this language. It just says Colorado City. It doesn't say excluding existing HOAs. So that's basically a double hammer that people have got to jump through hoops twice, technically, because I didn't see anywhere in any language, any verbiage that it's only units 1 through 45.
So, Frank, would that, be more amenable if it said in areas not covered by the covenant?
Or just say Colorado City units 1 through 45 only. Because I see a conflict with that. It's going to be a legal issue.
I agree with that.
So the language just needs to be changed to specify which units are actually covered on this.
All covered units of Colorado City.
Middleburg's a covenant unit in Colorado City.
It's
It's in Colorado City.
It isn't one of the.
Okay, so you're talking units in Colorado City. So units 1.
North Park and South Park, Millbrook is.
Okay, so long as that's clarified, differentiated. And then some other issues. Been told that the covenants will be enforced by complaint only. Is that still the case?
Yes. Yes, and then somebody's going out, our CCAC doesn't go out and look for complaints. It's only what is brought to them.
Just some of these things get off my chest. Do I believe that the covenants will be enforced uniformly, fairly, consistently? No. Do I believe that the legal term business judgment is basically selective enforcement? Yes.
Yes. Do I believe that we will eventually be sued for the business decision? Business judgment clause? Yes, especially if we don't have written down and given out to the community what covenants we're actually going to cover. And if you don't have that out ahead of time and we're cherry picking covenants that we enforce under the guise of business judgment, I think there's a 90% probability that we'll be sued within 5 years. I'm not a lawyer, but that's just common sense. If you have a neighbor A and a neighbor B, neighbor A turns in neighbor B for a vehicle violation. Neighbor B turns around and turns in neighbor A for having 4 dogs in unit 20. And we come out to neighbor A and say, you know what, we're not going to enforce that because we don't have time. I can see the first neighbor being totally pissed off. That's just common sense. So if we're going to enforce covenants, they need to be in writing what covenants we're going to enforce and what covenants we're not going to enforce. And some of those are can be very clearly defined. Yes, we're going to do these. No, we're not going to do these. You can't drive down the street and have a speed limit sign with a question mark on it. People need to know up front what's going to be enforced and what isn't.
To me, it's also very confusing that we can't change the covenant, but then we can add it here and there. We're not gonna worry about fixed chickens, which I think one of the chickens, that's one of them that I think is outdated. I think that's why we all live out here, is these companies like that, not so much restriction. But then, that's one of them I don't agree with. But how can we say we can't change the covenant, but you can have 6 chickens in the next job?
Well, that's one of my other issues. The business decision clause, I see being litigation big time. Another possible lawsuit will be, basically we're told that covenants is a contract between property owners in the unit or subdivision, and it cannot be changed. But all of a sudden we got fines. I have seen nowhere in our covenants where it says the word fines. Everything's done by the Florida National. There's not the word fines in our covenants. That's new and different. That seems like a change to me. Oh, I've spoken a lot.
Thank you. I just want to check. Once you know the covenants up and going. How can we not change the covenants? We use it in the judgment. That's the judicial definition of the business judgment rule. So the legal route, best we can.
Yeah.
So to your point of potential suit. Yeah. Possibly, but the potential suit should not dissuade us from taking action. We're doing something. Or if you don't do something, then we are not standing up to our contractual and fiduciary duty that we were elected for to actually
Our contractual duty and our fiduciary duty are not necessarily to enforce covenants, but to fairly, consistently, and non-arbitrarily, without capriciousness, enforce covenants. And there's a big difference.
And if we don't do that, then we're supposed to allow for discrimination anyway. So yeah, it depends on the wisdom and the non-discrimination of the board to act properly in all of these functions and in all of the functions for CC&D. So when the board took on the duties of the Architectural Control Committee, it was by a couple of the board members that were concerned about capricious acts from an appointed Architectural Committee in the past. at this point, as far as looking over things, maybe it was unwise for the board to take on the duties of the architecture control committee, but that happened. So the board is basically the architecture control committee. Being that, then we do have that duty to enforce as being architecture control committee. If we don't, we'll set the future boards up to have no power to do anything.
Well, that brings up another point. We don't have something in writing what covenants we're actually going to enforce. Every board's going to have a different opinion of what covenants to enforce.
That's why people left the board. You know, that's depending on the
So you start something and then all of a sudden there's a new covenant. Now, having said all this, I don't like this, but I have read the House Bill 24-1267 probably a dozen times. I have read all the information from the General Assembly, all the information from the Democratic website that wrote this bill. And I'm under the opinion that if we want to keep any type of covenant enforcement, and more importantly, our design process, we have to test this. Whether we like it or not. So what we're really voting on is whether we're going to have any type of covenant enforcement and design review process, or not. That's what we're voting on. And I can't see a district moving into the future without at least a design process in place.
anything else. Anything else?
I think that's enough.
I know I got way too important, sorry about that. I do have something regarding this here. So, my understanding from the lawyer is that whether we pass this or not, it does not prohibit other boards in the future from passing. Am I or am I not correct if that's what she told us?
I heard those words too, but I haven't heard them since then. I've communicated with the bill sponsor. Still awaiting an answer, as it's often the case when we communicate with legislators. There were several emails, but I haven't gotten a final answer on it, to be honest.
Because my understanding also is that no board can hold another board to a regulation, to a law, to anything that we pass. The new boards can change. Okay, they have that ability to change it. The new boards. Therefore, we can't pass anything here that holds their feet to the fire. And it also works the other way. We can't not pass something that holds their feet to the fire.
That probably is correct, depending on the way that act is written. It does say shall by December 1st.
But the lawyer was very specific that did not constitute us having to do it. He was very specific about it.
I didn't hear that. That being specific enough to comfort me now. Right?
Yeah, I would just like to offer to the board, I think that I agree with Clint, we have to be very consistent about which covenants we enforce. We have to. We can't just pick and choose. But I think that we just need to take on the high order of concern. I think we need to take on, to start, let's agree to just uphold the form arguments, which are in every covenant that I've seen. And just concentrate the first year on doing that. That solves the issue for campers. That solves the issue for houses facing the wrong way. It's like I had mentioned in some preliminary remarks I made. I don't think we should be looking at people's wood piles, or if they got a horse trailer, or, you know, something in their yard that everybody around here has in their yard. If I drive on my way home, every single house I go by's got a covenant violation, every single one, including mine. So I just think let's pass it. Let's work on form this year. Let's talk about fines. Let's hammer out a fine agreement. But I'm with Jim. I don't think that people who are camping, the county does nothing. At least maybe a fine at tax time. It shows up. Maybe that will get their attention. That's all I've got. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So, do these fines show up? This tax lien, okay, is not enforceable until the property is sold. It's not like not paying your property tax. Okay, so they can pay their property taxes and stay on that property for the next 25 years. The fines that we impose on them will go against the property when it is sold. So once again, what are we doing here?
I don't understand exactly. AOS fees, Jim. Is that the case with AOS fees?
Yeah.
So you can pay the property taxes and not pay the AOS fee?
Your property won't be taken.
Good thing that you can't get your property taken because.
I don't know if they'll accept the claim.
You have a right.
No, I think what the property is assessed in that, yes. As for any liens against it, that goes with the sale.
Yeah,
If you go through the title company,
Yeah.
or if you do it right away, most
right.
of the time the lot or sold with the county's not gonna care.
But
They're
in,
gonna keep their 1350.
but if
and
they
fine
go,
it.
but if they turn around and sell
Yeah,
it, then.
but I'm just saying most of the time lots here, like all the ones on Facebook that they take payments for and everything, they're doing it with the time. The county doesn't care. They're not gonna force them. I agree on those. And that's how they usually get passed down. That's how people pass them down from family member to family member. That's how they get, so they could stick with them for, like I was saying, who knows how long.
So that being said, I guess the fines that would be the case. On the same token, if we're looking for tools to help us make people pay attention, not just another tool. If it works, great. If it doesn't,
Good try.
we try. What else, Ray?
Well, I don't know. I just see this turning into, after that gentleman came in here with the chickens and his neighbors using that crap against him. I just see this turning into an agenda item that's gonna make people come on this board. They're gonna have agendas against neighbors in the community. And I see this turning into another form of a hammer that they can use on people that are doing nothing wrong. Now, people that are doing stuff wrong in this community, here's why I think covenants are nonsense. Because our county rules, which actually have teeth on it, okay, pretty much will cover probably 80% of the covenants. You know, it doesn't cover stuff like chickens. I can't believe we've got a rule in some of the covenants, 2 pets per house. I mean, holy cow, almost every house around here's got that covenant program. So we're going to give them a tool to enforce covenants when covenants is not the problem. Our problem is not getting county to do their job. And that is where we need to attack this issue, is getting the county to do their job. Because the only person who gets the sheriff out here to remove somebody from their property, the only people that can do that is not us, it's the county. That's it. Okay, and a judge. And the county's going to have to be the one that takes them. The judge is going to have to order it, and then the sheriff's going to have to come out and remove it. And that's it.
As maybe Ray can speak this better than I can. As listening to the county and after in the meetings with the county, is that they actually They're kind of just, they are bound by law. We're bound by contract. And their law, sure, they can have an open file on, and they have open files on many of our covenants. The file take 3 to 5 years to do anything. With the contract issue, we can actually, and the file enforcement goes immediately. If we don't have to wait for 2 to 5 years to go in front of the judge to use the tool to enforce covenants. The county does not, they use the business judgment rules, the way I've read. They, as far as teeth, they have actually smaller teeth than we do if we want to utilize tools that we can use. Go ahead.
This is a side note, to prove the point that the chairman was trying to make. It was in, I don't know, in the late nineties, our neighborhood used the covenants to remove a home, a mobile home from our neighborhood that didn't belong there. We used the covenants. If we would have used the county, it'd still be there. Because the county, in my experience, is hard to move. We can be more immediate. If I may, Mr. Collins, I think if we are enforcing the covenants, we are the referees that keep neighbors off neighbors.
So I agree with that 100%, okay?
And if we agree, because we're just this board, if we agree that we're just gonna work on the big item of form and not worry about pets or chickens or trailers or the stuff that all of us have in our yard, if we just worry about form, we're not gonna have a whole lot of issues to deal with.
Jim, the only issue that I see is when you say trailer, being yard, as long as there is a resident.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about things like horse trailers and utility trailers, and in my yard, it's a boat trailer.
And even a camper trailer, everybody,
Yeah,
Have
even
camper
camper trailers.
but a lot of times what we end up seeing is camper trailers being used as a home.
That's a form argument,
As well, of course,
and it's a county violation. But
that's
if you have a home in Colorado City, the form of a home in Colorado City is not with wheels. Just saying.
Lord, anything else specific to the board? If we get the audience involved in that.
Just that, the biggest thing I have with this is the, business decision, selective enforcement, call it whatever you want. I think that if we're gonna enforce just the big things, then that needs to be in writing.
Right.
And it needs to be put out to the community long before we ever start doing any fines. And the fines, number 7, should be changed to be determined after we have what we agree upon between the architectural committee and the board, what covenants we're going to enforce with this. Because from what I understand and what I've got through the General Assembly and everything else, is that if we do any covenant enforcement or design review, we have to adopt this. Otherwise, we can't do either. I don't want to give up the design. That's how I read the summation from the General Assembly. Our attorney's letter didn't really help much. So I'm not going to go with fining anybody for anything until we have something definitive in writing that's given out to the people in the community.
I like
This is what we're going to enforce. This is what we're not going to enforce. I don't want to enforce anything, but we got to entirely do something. We're mandated to do so or give up everything. And I understand Greg's statement that the attorney said. I agree with him. That's what she said. But from what I'm reading,
That is not the case.
Anything else? Yeah. Anything else? Rick? All right, let's move on into we don't have any reviews, John.
No, we don't.
Just, or I guess we have,
Well, I just want to mention, you're still having a public hearing on December 26th, for their WSRF grant, even though, today Neil and Ray got a nice letter saying that WRF is not going to allow us any grant funding because of some of the criteria that was put out there. I did have an hour and a half meeting with CDHP, the WSRF grant people, USDA, their lawyers, our lawyers, for about an hour and a half. Then I sat down and we talked with our engineers and lawyers, and also Scott and Josiah about funding and where we need to go. So we do have a game plan set forward. We're going to try and meet all of their stuff by, I think it's going to be January the 3rd, to make sure everything is turned in to them and say, okay, you're still applying. These are the recommendations you made. This is what we adapted our plant to be like to meet your recommendations. Where do we need to go from there? So it gives us a still fighting chance with our enforcement letter and our agreement that we had set in October for the appeal, and that it isn't our fault that they aren't willing to work with us, because we are working with them. So we're at that.
Sarah and Greg and Clint, you know what he's talking about? The that project.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got kind of kicked in the teeth. So this letter that I got. You didn't know.
No, I just went to, we were.
So do you want to just do?
Yeah, I'll say
hit the two main points that they kicked us out for?
one was that they didn't believe that we needed a $3 million state plan.
Yeah.
They didn't prove that. And I said, well, we're taking this loan for 30 years. So you're telling me that in 30 years, our growth wouldn't be at that point that, oh no, at 20 years, you're only at a 3.7% growth rate over what we've checked for the last 10 years. So, well, we didn't see any growth until the last 4 years. So you're taking, oh, well, we didn't count those years that we were in negative growth. But you counted the months ago, you don't have the real. To make that one. Within the last 4 years, we've had 100 houses. And going through that process.
what we have to do maybe is copy it.
And I'll send it out to everybody. But the other aspect too was, and I didn't mention it, I should have, was they want our water loss. The water loss is at 50%. Oh, well, that is way above national average. Well, the national average is 30%. Water. Well, and we explained to them that, yeah, we've taken steps, we've put in new meters, we've done repairs, we found places that we're not charging. We went through our books to make sure everybody was being charged the right amount for water and all of that. And we're at this point that we're still looking and moving forward. Well, then they wanted to, well, we can give you money for infrastructure. Well, are you going to we need to finish our things that are of importance, which we have mandates and all of this stuff on, before we can even start working on that. And so it was that back and forth with state and us. But we are looking at working it out and trying to get it where we can do it. One of the things is okay, if we get a USDA grant or a WRS, which is Water State Preserve Fund, is WRS, RSF or SRF funding. It is supplied by EPA money. USDA is government money. So there is mandates that they have to have. We have to have rules of product, which means we buy American owned. We have to have a engineer on site 24/7 anytime that we are working. We have to, what was the other thing? There was three major things. Davis-Bacon rule. So, hold on a minute, Neil. So all of these things took that price from down here at $13 million to $18 million. So we are also looking at the aspect of, okay, if we went out to an individual investor or whatever to borrow money that way, what is it going to cost us? So we have that in the works also. So that will be something else that will be, we're working.
So what you're saying is if we go to the alternative funding, that 18 million becomes 13 million.
Yes.
I just wanted to ask the board, did any of you ever get the impression that our water loss was part of the argument or the criteria for?
No, this was.
But that's in the letter.
That's news to me, and
Yeah.
it was never water loss is significant, and how are we gonna fix that?
Well, about $80 million to fix it.
Yeah, and that's what we told them. You're looking at 72 miles of line, and you're looking at probably about $1 million a mile, because that's what it costs us for Red Cloud. It's $1.2 million for 1 mile of line. So, okay, you have $100 million to give us, and you're only going to give us 75% loan forgiveness at that point. So we're still going to have to come up with $25 million. So, yeah, it's been a hectic day, but like I said, it was about 8 hours sitting with all of these people and dealing with it, and we're looking at different alternatives. So we'll work it out. We'll get it work it out.
We'll send out.
Yes, I will send it out. That's where we're at. And we're still gonna go ahead with the meeting because we'll try and appease what they're doing and get it. Is
It would help us a lot to actually see a spreadsheet of proposed funds.
yeah, and I think that would also be that we no go outside. It's been good at doing that, putting everything that work for and what we're going to follow.
All right, we can be good shape. The work of business board to be conducted in the most effective and efficient manner, necessary that all persons present maintain the unit of open for the board, staff, and each other. Conduct that appears certain or elected will not be tolerated. Challenge, be not order, or the use of potential gestures to are not effective. Such favors shall constitute the forfeiture of the right to remain in attendance and as the point board about the board attention by council or any board member, including chairperson, result in being asked to leave the meeting by the chairperson or on refusal in escort out of the meeting by the proper board. Okay. Who do we have signed up for?
First, Mr. Kraus, Mr. Chairman, are you on the list, sir?
I'm not, I should have put it on there, but it's something I've been waiting for the last 3 years.
If you would, please.
On a covenant,
When is your name?
We'll get your name on it.
Bill Kavanaugh. Moscow, Florida. When will we be able to search on the website for the covenants?
They are there. They are on the website.
Searchable.
Yep.
All of them. No place in Holland. You got,
Not like the search bar would type.
If not,
right, so I can't type that
if
in.
not, you're welcome to, we can give you a copy of it. We'll print you out a copy of it, put there on the website.
Well, the covenants are different for each area.
Yeah, you just gotta know what lot and unit you're in, which on your paperwork when you bought the house, you have what lot and unit.
I have all that info. It's just
Yeah.
a photograph.
We have it. What else? That's it. Ms. Brown?
Okay.
I'm really glad I'm first. You know, if I speak 10 minutes first, nobody will be upset, but if I'm like 19th, speak 10 minutes, people will vote. My name's Terry Kraus. In case some of you don't know me, my wife and I have owned the Greenhorn Valley U for 15 years. If you've had any problems with it, it's her fault. I also served 2 terms on the Metro District, and I'm old enough, some of you probably old as me, but I'm old enough to remember when Kenny Rogers was a rock and roll star, and he sang a song called I Just Dropped In to See What Condition My Condition Was In. Well, I'm telling you, my condition tonight is wonderful. I am so excited to be here with these people because I feel like history's going to be made tonight. I feel like with all the questions, and I've got many of the same questions that board members have, but I feel like with all those questions and all those things, the covenant policy is a positive thing. And here's why. I don't know, none of you probably know how I ended up in Colorado City. Well, town after town after town signed petitions for us to move. No. I worked for a company at that time called Labor Ready. We did day labor, and I was a district manager. I got promoted to district manager out here. And my territory extended from Colorado Springs to Las Cruces, New Mexico. Most of it right along the interstate. And so during the day, I'd drive from one place to the other, and I'd go by the big green signs on the interstate, and I'd see town names, and I'd write them down because we had to find a place to live. At the time, we lived in Eugene, Oregon. My wife is from East Colorado, and I grew up in western Kansas. We were living in Oregon. And then at night on my computer, I'd look up all those towns. I'd look at the demographics. I'd look at the size of the schools. We still had school children then. And then if it interested me, the next time I went up the interstate, the other direction, I'd stop and take a look at that community. Colorado City was one of the names that I had on my list. And I can't remember if I was headed north or south. I almost pointed the wrong direction. I can't remember which way it was, but I stopped and I quit looking. I took down no more names. I stopped in town. I made sure it was during the day when things were going on. And I visited with a few people and I drove around and I never looked anyplace else because it was a beautiful, wonderful, friendly place. It had schools that were small enough for my son who wanted to be an athlete, but it was much more a mental aspiration than a physical reality. And I called my wife that night. I said, Lori, I found the place we're going to live. And in her typical wifely fashion, she said, are you sure? You know, but I was. But the Colorado City of today, and I'll also tell you this, most of you know this, I don't live in Colorado City now. I live in Colorado Springs because when COVID came along, nobody came in our office. And so my wife decided, she's not here to defend herself, my wife decided that we should live closer to our 4 grandchildren. So we moved to Colorado Springs because our grandchildren live just outside of Colorado. When our grandchildren get tired of us, I am assuming we'll move back. But the reason I say all this is because Colorado City is different than when I moved here in 2005. And the majority of the difference are things that will be taken care of by passing this policy. And I have all the same questions that everybody else here has. During my tenure on the Metro District, I served with some board members that were really enjoyable to serve with. And I served with some
that, well, they gave Neil gray hair, just prayers. But I believe that it's for the best of the community. And I'd like to echo some of the things that Ray said. I listened to every meeting, even though I'm not down here. I write the stories for the paper. So I've basically been involved with the Metro for 15 years. This, in my opinion, of the boards I've dealt with, is the finest group of ladies and gentlemen that I've had the privilege, including when I was here. But I wasn't the weak link, it was a different thing. But they're good. But I wanted to address a couple of things. Does it do any good to have a architectural control committee? The answer is a resounding yes. Right now, the architectural control committee is handcuffed. They go to people who are breaking covenants and they say, please, would you change this? Please and thank you, and send them a pretty letter and then not as pretty a letter and then one that's not pretty, but everybody in the community knows they can't do anything about it. But despite that, people have changed. Some people have changed their behavior. And now it's my belief, and Bob can probably correct me, but it's not his turn, so my belief stands till he gets up there. It's my belief that the people who changed are the people who didn't realize there were covenants to begin with. And they say, oh, I follow the rules, I obey the laws. Sure, I don't really want to get rid of Fifi, my donkey, but I will. The people who don't change are the people who don't care about any of us in this room. You see, we, in my opinion, have a responsibility to our neighbors, right? Is that misguided? Yes, we don't have to do everything that everybody says. I'm a registered Republican, but I lean libertarian in a lot of things. But I have a responsibility to you as fellow creations of God, right? Is that right? The people that ignore the covenants over and over and over and over don't give a fill in the appropriate blank, depending what your verbiage is, care about any of it. So we've had limited success as we're doing it now. And I say we, because Ray took my chair, but, and it's a good chair.
I like it.
I do too. But anyway, the people that care about other people do their best to change. The board has indicated, and I believe they don't have the time or effort to vary from this, any board, that only the big things are going to make a difference. The people who don't care about any of us. Secondly, can we get sued? Have any of you sued a police officer? No. I was a police officer for a while. If I would have spent my day enforcing every law in the book, I would have not done anything else. I'd have my hands would be like this because there's 1,000 laws. So what did I do as a police officer? I picked the ones that were the most dangerous to enforce. Right? Same thing with the covenants. Everybody here, we had 4 pets, minus that one pregnancy where we had 11 pets for a while, but we got rid of them as quick as we could. But it's like triage. You deal with the things. I don't care. I didn't care. My one neighbor where we lived, we built a house in Colorado City where we lived, at one point had about 5 junk cars. I didn't care because I couldn't see any of them. Now, when he got up to 12 or 14, I had a problem with it because anybody who drove down our road could see him. And I did the right thing. I went and talked to him about it. And he did nothing about it. So what do I do then? Right? Okay. Fines.
The fines are gonna be adjusted. They have to be fair. Will there be consistency board to board? I don't know. Recall them. Vote them out of office because 2 or 3 of these people continue on, right? It's never like you all of a sudden get 5 new people, unless of course they meet with a tragic accident. Finally, I know I'm running out of time and the chairman will eventually invoke that rule that they just read. Do you know, I actually have about 3 points. I'm going to pretend this is the last one, but it goes to 2 more. Do you know that there have been people who have murdered people that have gotten away scot-free? So,
In Colorado City.
no, in the world, in the United States, in Colorado. So let's do away with the murder law. The opposite of law and order is anarchy. I had a distant friend, not a close friend, whose son, we lived in Eugene, Oregon for a while. If you want to see anarchy, go there. And these anarchists would gather and do things like block bridges on major traffic. This young woman, relatively young, everybody's younger than me, this young woman's son was playing with a gun and shot himself. And they were trying to get to the hospital, and the anarchists had picked that bridge that day to protest on and wouldn't move, and the child died. The opposite of law is anarchy. So this is a clear choice. And finally, if any of you need to go anywhere, I would love to vote tonight. I would be glad to take any of these chairs. Just an offer. Just one. By the way, I pulled my press credential pass to get a sit by Jim, because then if I have any questions, I can write it for him. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, sir.
I have Bob Smith.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. For you that don't know me, I'm Bob Smith from the Colorado City Architecture Advisors. I had to fire, anything, but I still volunteer. And I'm going to go over some things. Some people might not exactly know what this new HB 1267 is. But anyway, according to Colorado General Assembly summary, the Metropolitan District, and there's over 2,200 in Colorado, is a type of special district that provides at least 2 types of services and may perform covenant enforcement similar to the role of a homeowner association. The Act requires a Metropolitan District engaging in covenant enforcement, we do, and design review services, we do. Colorado City Metro Metropolitan. To comply with certain procedural requirements. And they are listed right in the bill. Pull up this particular paragraph 32-1-1004 Metropolitan Districts. Additional powers and duties 8B in furnishing covenant enforcement and design review services pursuant to this subsection 8. The board of a Metropolitan District shall comply with the procedural requirements set forth in section 32-1 of HB 1267. It's not a might or would, maybe or whatever. Not voting to implement this bill that went into effect on August 7th, signed and then 9 days later went into effect, August 7th, 2024, will result in a continued slow but steady decline in Colorado City infrastructure. Not voting to implement HB 1267 will be a vote for those who choose to ignore, just as Barry mentioned, existing covenants and do not care about how Colorado City looks. Voting to implement HB 1267 will result in a slow but steady improvement in Colorado City. Voting to implement HB 1267 will be a vote for those in the community who want to see it flourish and properly protect property values. But Mr. Gross is correct. And then I haven't seen, since I've been here, our attorney come up with any definitive answer either. But anyway, Mr. Gross is correct. So in my opinion, there is no reason nor legality for the need of an up or down vote to initiate HB 1267. It is mandated in bill that the Colorado Metro District Board complies with this bill. There's no doubt. The required procedures in the bill are already written down and ready to be put into correct legal format. Continuing to drag our feet only hurts our community, and worrying about what might happen if the bill is enforced is a new excuse. We talked about fines and procedures I put together with some help. I don't think those fines ought to be decreased. So you can have real low fines, and what's the point of going to somebody's house and you're sending them a letter or anything else? They are said, or can adjust them at any time. Let's see. And then they brought up the covenants that will be enforced. And then apparently they're going to consider allowing chickens. But the board, I'm sure, I hope that you've read the covenant procedures or guidelines that I gave everybody. Maybe to do that. You can't just say we're going to allow chickens or 6 chickens or whatever. I think gotta have no roosters ought to be in there like the Kennedy does. But also, there's got to be something in there about if you don't keep the chicken house clean, whatever, and the lots are right beside each other, and I can't have a barbecue in my backyard because it stinks so bad. That's not correct. So they may be out of sight in the backyard, but they still have to comply with the county distance rules from the fence, the hutches, etc. And they can't be allowed to be a nuisance. And that should be our responsibility. Even though we can't see them, our neighbors have to smell them. And that's not right. It's not fair. So, but that's just one of the issues that we deal with. It's probably going to be more. We've got to do something. And everybody needs to have an input. Because round robins are important, whether I agree with you or not. There may be points that I need never thought about that we can apply to these government changes. Can't say that because you can't change governments. But anyway, everybody needs a voice. But then we've got the county, if you don't know it, they just now brought in their UDC. They've changed all Title 17 rules and regs, and which are going to help. But they're there also. So they'll have to deal with them also. Thank you.
Next, Tammy.
Johnson, and I'm kind of here also for my grandpa, Lynn Mark, who we built here like 25 to 30 years ago. He wasn't aware of the animal. And I looked before we moved. We had to sell our home. In order to come and take care of grandpa. I already had chickens because it's allowed, even in the summer. And I've had chickens for years, even when we lived in Lafayette. And that was like almost 2 years. So when I brought the chickens here this summer, and we had to move really, really fast. And so it was kind of a disorganized move. So we could get grandpa home. I was doing everything I could to be a responsible chicken owner. Lo and behold, just so you guys know, when you buy these things, when you buy chicks, you don't know until they grow. And sometimes those little girls can grow. But as soon as we found out we had roosters, we were so embarrassed because there was about half of them. And and went to freezer camp. As soon as we possibly could take them to freezer camp. We kind of wanted to be able to use them for meat, instead of just killing them for the sake of killing them. So we let them grow up 2 weeks. And the feedback that we were getting from our neighbors was we kind of like being woken up in the morning with the crows, and they're not that bad. Then we had somebody say that we had complaints. One of our roosters had run them up. And I only wish I could see that neighbor's footage on their porch cam that morning, because my husband was in his basketball shorts and long socks trying to help me catch this rooster. It had to be absolutely hilarious. But we let the pilots have him. They've since been all we have them. But just know that it sometimes takes a few weeks, and have a little grace, and come and tell your neighbors if you have complaints, if something goes wrong, come and tell them instead of only just going to these guys, because they're busy and we're responsible people, and you can always come to our neighbors, and you might just get some eggs out of you. And because we're really sorry. We keep everything clean. We keep everything tidy. We had a bunch of building materials out there for a long time this whole summer, because like I said, we have a medically fragile child and grandpa who's 91, and we were trying to get everything else sorted out. So the move was difficult, and it took us a bit. Go to your neighbors, love them. We're gonna have to love them. Just treat them like they're precious. The guy at work said.
It's treating like a neighbor.
He's a neighbor. But also, like the person before said, good fences make good neighbors too. And when it comes to ordinances and rules, we need to follow rules. It would have really, really helped if, when I searched up the covenants and stuff, I could have found it. I never did find it online. I did come here and get a copy, but by then we had already moved and everything, and we were already out of compliance. And poor Grandpa was beside himself because he hates not following the rules. But just know that your neighbors really, they do care. Most of them. I do know there are some of them, but most of them do care. And just go thing instead of following first. And solve the problem. My last one, 4-H, making kids responsible kids, and our grasshopper problem this last summer. It have all been solved with chickens. That's all.
Next, Martha.
Have a circuitous way of talking, and so just for the same grace as everybody else talked with 3 minutes. To your point, that if we're going to pick and choose what covenants are enforced, that opens you up for litigation. Absolutely, and especially because that same lens is the one that gives a footing for accusations of bias and prejudice and discriminatory line. Because how else are you going to be choosing what you're enforcing or not? Though you might say it's business-based best practice or whatever, it's going to say, why did this become the thing that matters most to you, right? And so I think you open yourself up for those lawsuits, because you could end up even saying, that, you're going after a specific class, and we're talking about people who are bringing, campers on their own property, and how you might define that, or why you might say that that should be enforced against. Even in that, besides the priority of saying what matters most to you as a board or the community, whatever arbitrary lines are drawn, actually the better approach to take is what even has the type of language that can stand in a courtroom, in a county, with the judge and attorneys to argue for how to interpret it, and then for that to be the case. Because most of the covenants are not written in clear language that way, especially with things like campers. And I understand the board or Jim or whoever might want to say that that should be applied in their lens of how to interpret it. Those covenants are not written in that kind of clear language. And so for it to have teeth at all, it's still going to require court and judgment. And so that's an important thing to consider when you're saying what would you even hold if you're not going to hold them all together, is defining those things. Campus, for example, as Jim brought up, can be referenced as trailers in the covenants for a lot of these different parcels in the community, and the way in which that covenant reads when it references trailers is to the effect that they can't just be left there, which is the whole thing you said wouldn't be a problem with like horse trailers and become the same. And the issue becomes ideas of what about living there, etc. The form of a house. Well, if nobody's claiming it's a house, then that makes that something else altogether too. It is the county codes that define it as a recreational vehicle, which has freedoms to be on one's own property without harassment as well. And so you end up in this place where somebody on here might want to say you can't live in your camper. Another is saying, well, the problem is you're camping in your camper. The other is saying, well, you can't just leave it here without you there as if abandoned. And it's like, okay, well, you're wanting to say what amounts to whomever different might be talking, that a person can't, as a property owner of land, have their own other property of a camper on the land they own and be there or not be there at their discretion, which is a silly notion when you talk about the idea of the American value system that started and was founded and grew on the idea of we can own land for whatever philosophical lens that creates for everything that comes from it. America says you can own land, and to the fullest extent of the least restrictive interactions with government or otherwise, you are free to be not harassed, especially by government. It is to me a nonsense thing to say we all owe to each other something other than giving everybody the full right of who they are as a human and as a citizen, as America. Your preferences for what I might look like, or how I might spend my time on my land are not things I owe you to decide my life about any more than you owe that to me, except where it actually breaks law or where there are teeth that matter, like if the value of another home was even on the line in an actual conversation, it's going to have to do with things like sanitation. Sanitation has a process with things like that don't seek to answer, assume, impose, make judgments, or investigate just citizens doing whatever they want on their land with their property, try to prove they've abandoned something or that they're living in it or that they're camping it or whatever definition you're trying to make the case for, that the covenants actually don't support any of it. So I say all that because on top of it, blood that is inside of me is that of the indigenous Americans to this land specifically. And then my dad, who was in Vietnam, my grandfather was in World War II, my great grandfather was in World War I. Even though our peoples and the cost of what it meant to establish this thing called the USA against the people from this land, even then, my family still comes from a line of those who have said the value systems that matter when it comes to rights and freedoms and equality and all these things are as much in my blood as the other my families went to, or in defense of those things, and many didn't. For things as simple as my land entitled me the right to be on it or not be on it at my discretion with the property I own and in compliance with law, like having it plated, insured, otherwise. And it's not that I don't care about anybody in this room because I'm not blanket taking everybody's opinion on what the covenant should be read to be from those eyes. No, I read something different that is not face value that should take court to have a discussion anyway, except it would cost money and there is likely a loss in it if you went that way because the covenants don't say those things. All on top of where is it really rooted except for bias, because if it's just legitimately things like sanitation, go the legal route. The idea that you'd want make people to feel like their land can be taken through taxes or otherwise because they have neighbors that don't like whatever bias they have about not liking their neighbors. How do we let people be who they are on the land they or wave the American flag saying that's what this is built on in so many ways.
Steve.
My name is Steve Bowden. I live here in Colorado City now. I don't have a problem with chickens. I say that in the first, but I'm probably one of the reasons why everybody's here tonight. I started this conflict, I believe, with a neighbor of mine who had a Conex box. And the county said you could have it with no problem, right? But the county referred back to the Metro because of covenants. There's nothing in the covenants that covered it. Again, point you bring out, well, okay. Again, so it pits one neighbor against the other. Do I think my house is more important than his house? No. Do I think his Conex box could affect the value of my house? Yes. So therefore, I'm in a perplexed problem. I want to keep friends with my neighbor, but yeah, I want to protect my property value. Okay. Same as if I was on your property. I came on your property, sir, and I put something on your property or next to your property that wasn't kosher to what you believe in or how you would like this. So you have the right to reflect back to the covenants, which may cover it, may not cover it. And I've been on this architectural committee before as a volunteer. Let me tell you something, their job is not easy. Okay, this is Nancy. Okay, all right. So you got a lot of people there who are trying to make a decision on what's right, what's not right, how the covenants read. Again, like you said, it's up to each person's interpretation of the covenant, which is correct. But if we have a base, and like you said, I think it will be, if this passes tonight, I think it will be litigation. I don't know how far in the future, I don't know when or where, but it may not be with this board, it may be a future board, but it will be coming eventually. Somebody will file some litigation. Okay. I see the good points in this. I see the bad points in it. I understand everybody's statements up here they made tonight, and I agree with a lot of them. So I'm still in a position where I'm on the fence. Do we go this way and risk litigation against Colorado City? We may bankrupt this place if we lose. Okay, then how do we go about making equality for everyone for covenant? Conex box was important in my part. Okay, somebody else may have chickens that bother them, for example, right? Somebody else may have 2 or 3 dogs. I had a neighbor who had some violent dogs. I didn't come here. I told my neighbor I'd shoot him. Okay, that's how I handle that. All right, I'm not going to have my wife get attacked by a dog. I'm not going to come here and ask Metro to deal with that. If I get a vicious animal around my property, I'm going to deal with it. Because, I have grandkids, I don't want them to get hurt, anything else like that. But then I take the law in my own hand. I realize that. So that's my problem. Okay, not anybody else, not the Metro, not anybody else. The problem with my Conex box, I settled it with the gentleman. We had a conversation, he didn't want to talk, so we did talk. We had a short conversation. And he agreed. The Metro came up with a solution. And that's why we're all here in this regard, because the solution is not adaptable to everyone. And the solution was that to paint the Conex box and not make it look like a box. Okay, that was their answer. And I think that's a good answer, because I've seen other Conex boxes painted like the exterior of their house. Looks great. Okay, I have no problem with that. As long as it's done appropriately. And I think things should be appropriate. Yeah. And I think the board is a good good example of what's going on up here, what has been going on since the last 8 years, maybe, before this board was up here, before Mr. Eric was manager, right? It was a mess up here. I don't know how many people's been up here for quite a few years, but if you remember right, you know, it was really a mess. Okay, so now we've got something to work on, and I'm not sure if this is the right way to go or not, but something's got to happen somewhere. And I believe litigation will clear a lot of this up, and let the courts decide. Okay, which are legal. Thank you.
You mean like if somebody sued the city?
Somebody sues the city or something like that, Colorado City, or board, or whatever. I don't know how it happened, or if it's ever going to happen. I'm not saying for it. I'm just saying there's a possibility there that could happen, and the probability is high.
But doesn't this new law remove whatever regulation also allows kind of change our covenant regulation?
That's another issue that we go into about covenants. You can't change the covenants unless you have 51% of the property owners in that unit,
Which are not here.
which are not here.
Right.
So I don't know how that 51% works. It's got to be just a number of votes coming back in, or it's got to be Mr. Ecker might be able to. I have no idea.
I'll have to research it more.
Okay,
It's just one
one more than like say if you have 1,000, it's got to be 501.
one more problem.
Right. So, but
There's so many different covenants that's spread across different groups that it would be impossible to do.
I see the problems with the board and architect to me that Bob's on is that, like you said, there's so many different units and all the covenants are not the same in each unit. He had a good point. Make all covenants, major covenants, bracket that extends to all the units. Okay, then you deal with the little ones on a case by case basis. Okay, it's going to deal. You got to have a block there for a set of rules that everyone can follow or must follow to respect your neighbors. Okay, respect the people in the community. Respect your community. That's why I moved up here for. Gentlemen said they moved here. Lady said they moved here, and Harry moved here. I moved up here because the community is beautiful. I like to keep it that way, right? But I don't have the authority to go tell everybody you got to move your stuff. You know, so I mean, and I shouldn't have that kind of authority. But what I'm saying is, to change the covenants, it takes more than what a lot of people realize. It's not just saying Metro Board can change the can. Okay, these covenants been in there for a long time. They're outdated. I agree. You know, there's some of them that say you can't even have a dog. Okay, all right. So, you know, we got to put the trash can out by 6 in the morning. It makes sense because you got bears around here. You know, I see people flush the trash cans at night and they're picking up big time. So, thank you.
Next, I got Scott the Sheriff Adams. You don't want to talk about roads. It's not.
A couple of things. Let me just throw in before we go. There's a tree, and I don't know if I'm supposed to go here with this. There's a tree hanging over our shed in the community garden that is going to destroy our shed with a big wind comes down. It's completely and totally dead. It needs to come down. And I know somebody that would take the wood. You don't want to haul it away, I understand it. So we can talk about it.
Thanks, Mr. Adams. I've been a resident for 25 years. I got two things to touch on. Now, this covenants with chickens in that. Now, I know some of the properties are zoned for agriculture. Now, agriculture, that would be considered horse animals. Okay. So now you'd have to change the covenants on some of these lots.
Sure. So what you're talking about is the acres, the ones that are zoned agriculture now, they allow farming,
So, they're not, already they're not restricted.
So they don't apply.
They don't have.
But that's good.
Okay, I don't know how you justify who takes care of our streets and roads around here. My road, I, 25 years, I got with the county when I first moved here. And got the specifications to the county codes on building a section of my road. I went through my own expenses to take care of this road. But now it's come down to a point now where the Metro's pretty much taking this section of my road over. So basically what I'm asking for is, I can see it coming to a safety issue. It's getting to a point now where, I get a lot of rain and snow doesn't get plowed. I can't get up that way unless I have four-wheel drive. Now, what if a paramedic has to come to my house, can't get there? Well, there's a lawsuit. All I'm asking for, I've been paying taxes 25 years. Something.
I know they're gonna work out the words.
He's wanting gravel.
Yeah, I know, and that's, I know.
It's total mud.
Yeah.
Can't wait till this snow.
Sir,
Thanks.
which road do you live on, sir?
Governor.
And did my place still on your list?
Yeah.
How long you been on this? Don't you guys own them?
They take my road service away every time they come. Now we have a big, road service in the middle of the road.
What the fuck?
Next, that's it. Bill, did you have anything else?
I gave up on the road. Anybody else? And
I have a question in voting in on, let's say, the covenants, and if we say yes on this, is anything that is currently in place that people have built 25 years ago or anything, is there going to be any wording about something being grandfathered?
No, the covenants, there is no mention of that in public facts.
I'm just meaning with what you're putting in place.
No, it's total statutes, rules.
well, house facing the wrong direction, you're gonna have to tear it down?
No, probably, that would be us, that's the region. Probably. Would they?
I just heard you say that earlier, and I can tell them to put a house on backwards.
We need to start, we need to control that up front. Anybody else have anything to say? But quite an audience, appreciate you all being, here now, it's time to pick up.
So I'm assuming you guys are gonna know vote on this?
Well, you still have a public service.
Here we have,
We got a ways to go, but it's on the agenda.
For tonight?
Yes.
How many votes do I have on?
It's on the pits.
Got a stickle bar?
I got a question. If you're going to be voting on adopting whatever time you do find or not, how will the decision process be made on which covenants and how to sign on interpreting them if you're not? Or whether the commission can be a part of.
They'll be done in a public meeting.
And will our input on, like, will there be discussion on this reads this way and that we're going to take this approach or not with that interpretation?
Yeah, I just had something similar, because I know you want to tackle the big things, but the smaller things like the lumber, I would hope there would be consideration if there's a health issue, like a rat infestation in that lumber pile, and then you guys can do something about it, but
That would be health department.
yeah.
We don't have anything in the covenants that has to do with vermin. What we do have is noxious fancy, and probably we do in that case. The rat infestation are very definitely healthy.
All right.
And health department actually has teeth.
Yeah.
Health department comes out and tells you to do something, you do.
Okay, and that was just a quick example. I can just, I'm sure if I thought on it more, there might be some smaller situations that can become bigger because of the issues. So I would just hope that, those would be considered in the future, but.
Just remember, we live in the country.
But definitely, yeah.
Well, make a mistake, that's why we're all here.
Okay, so, moving on to,
Not at this point.
or close. The study section, which is regularly, board graduate funds, and model, seven forty.
You know what? You know what works. Absolutely. I can. Money. Get a tank. Okay, we'll see.
Make sure we have a clean one.
I'm cool.
Make sure we're the
Make a motion to this. I'll second that.
Aye. Opposed? We haven't joined.
Okay, at this point, we got closing meeting.
We got closed meeting now.
We'll start with the first public hearing.
We close the regular meeting and open the public hearing for
Budget,
the rules and regulations.
but you have the budget here.
Budget here.
Oh, budget hearing towards, okay. Public hearing for the budget. Any comments from the public? About the budget? Any comment from the board? We close the public hearing for the budget, we open the public hearing for the amendments to rules and regulations pertaining to the road access, correct?
Yeah.
Any comments from the public?
Good question.
Good.
Just mean that if I got a drainage problem on my road, like front of my building, that the Metro will come and look at it, decide if I need a roll or not, or just if something individual I can do.
I think if you couple the Metro that they would come and look at, it, but as far as actually putting in an access,
Right.
then you need to have all that.
I got an access here, but I might need to open it, I might, I'm paid for that.
Oh, that, then would be going through this. Yeah, you can come up and get a recommendation whether, as I do need the culvert, whether you're gonna have to go through for me.
But I can pay this Metro to put it in, right?
No,
Well, I can't.
that would be your.
Little diggers or something.
Under contract.
I got a grievance with them, though. No, I just kidding.
Afterwards, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Any other questions on that spot of public access?
One of the things that, no, it's on the next one.
So, I guess, board, did everybody read the red line? The one that Jim sent out?
Yeah.
Okay. Any comments about it?
It looked fine to me. I'm sure there's gonna be things that have changed, but it looks fine to me. I like it.
You look okay with that? Yeah, okay. All right. Close the public hearing for the road access and open the public hearing for updated policy, government policy. More input from the audience.
Yeah, before you guys, you're gonna vote on the we vote on it, isn't just easy to consider that might be outside of the, whatever might have become comfortable for whatever reasons it might have with how you assume an understanding on the covenants of language that doesn't support it at face value. If you're going to adopt this, I think the only thing that would make sense to enforce will be ones that have language that will mitigate as much as possible the likelihood of litigation, especially loss in litigation. Not preference based on personal biases or perspective on what matters to them. Because at the end of the day, my dirt would be unchanged by someone's dirt on a different borderline. Value is what it is, the city what it is. Anything that would merit meaningful need for interaction and intervention could likely be addressed by sanitation, county, those things with teeth, the health department, and the rest we just overlaying the narrative on top of it. Bias is just that, and if the covenants don't support it itself, then it would save you a fight and potential loss if you were to prioritize something like that, just because somebody takes their approach in defining how they do.
Right.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I just wanna point out to a couple gentlemen that spoke up here. Okay. First of all, covenant law cannot be changed other than by a vote of the property owner, period. It is guaranteed, it is a contract between owners of property, okay? It cannot be superseded by state law. State law can't do it. Federal law can't supersede contracts. Contracts are guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States. Okay, they are a supreme law. The only thing that can change contract law would be a ruling from the Supreme Court. Period. That's it. And they've had a couple. They've had a couple covenants go all the way to the Supreme Court. One famous one was sheet or shake shingles. The Supreme Court said you can't tell people that they have to put a fire hazard on the roof. Okay? That was one of the covenants that went all the way. This law that the state passed, quite frankly, is nonsense. It cannot supersede covenants. Period. And covenants do not give us the authority. The covenants were written by the original contract people that designed this community. And everybody in this room, including myself, that bought a piece of property in this city, agreed to those covenants when you bought the property. Whether you knew about them or not, you agreed to those covenants because it's a contract that comes with the property. Period. Okay, now we can change it. It's going to require some work, but we can change it. And it's not easy. Most things aren't. But this state law is absolute nonsense. First of all, it's litigation just waiting to happen because the covenants do not give us the right to fund. Now, the covenants do give us the right to take them to court. We can take them to court and sue them and uphold that contract law, which I'm all for that. Okay, but it's hard. It's difficult. So this board has decided not to do it on numerous occasions. Matter of fact, this board has never done it, including when you were on it.
Right.
Okay, we've never taken somebody to court.
Correct.
Because we're lazy. Simple. Real simple. Okay? But instead we want to put a law in place that quite frankly is unconstitutional because it interferes with a contract that was made between citizens of this community. Because every single one of us signed that contract when we signed our deed. Every single one of us. Period. Whether you knew it or not. Okay? So, to me, this is an absolute, I understand where these guys are coming from, but don't tell me that I don't care about my neighbors. Because that's a bunch of crap. Okay? I love my neighbors. Absolutely love them. And don't tell me because I don't want this unconstitutional law to be, to come before us and us pass it. And then you guys tell me, well, you don't even have to pass it. It's automatically forced on them. Nonsense. Covenants are supreme. No, I've got the floor. Thank you. Covenants are supreme. They are guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States. Period. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
I was just gonna say one more thing. If we love our neighbors, we give, let's do the work.
I guess that, Ms. Collins, I disagree with you as far as the constitutionality. It is
Sure.
all state statutes and the covenants are actually written to stand with state and federal laws. So I
They're
don't.
a contract, not law.
Right, but they are written as a contract to abide by federal and state laws.
They are a contract, not a law.
To abide by federal and state laws.
Laws are passed by a governing body and signed by a governor or president. Okay, we learned this in school. The bill, okay?
What think you find?
Covenants are a contract. Covenants are a contract protected by the Constitution of the United States.
Correct, but just like most contracts, it says within the contract, it'll state something about abiding by federal and state laws, and these do.
They say that they defer to county on certain things. However, they do not defer to county on the specific items that are listed in the covenants. The covenants, county can't come in, so county cannot pass a rule that says chickens are allowed. Okay, you can have up to 4 chickens at every house, and it does not override covenants. You can't.
Mr. Chairman, yeah. Just a 5-second Google search that said, I put in, can Colorado contracts be superseded by law? Yes, contracts in Colorado can be superseded by state laws. For example, a contract may be subject to modifications required by changes in Colorado state law or their implementing regulations. I don't believe everything on the internet. That was just the first thing that popped up.
Governments cannot.
Well, I think you're wrong.
It is. Awesome.
Over and over, probably constantly about how we can enforce covenants, but I don't understand. And I don't want to enforce all the covenants. I don't like a lot of the covenants. Especially when you're gonna say that we're gonna enforce a covenant, and then we're gonna put in here, but except for this. I think putting it in writing, really, like, and I understand that you want rules to it, but if we're like, you can't change the covenant, you can't change them to this person, but if we don't, we're gonna put in writing that we're not gonna enforce it. And then we're gonna enforce the other ones.
Equality.
I don't see how that's not gonna get us in trouble at some point.
It's a huge trouble.
Especially when you're talking, when you bring money into it.
I don't believe that, Clint was saying that put in the writing that we're not going to enforce them. You would say pretty well, we are going to
But
enforce.
I'm thinking here, it says that we're not gonna enforce her covenant. I don't see how we could end up not in trouble when we're saying that we have to enforce all the covenants. And then you have in writing, except for you can have 6 chickens in your backyard as long as you don't talk about it.
Mr. Chairman, Mayor.
Yes.
So basically, we haven't been enforcing covenants for the 2 years I've been on the board. And as some board members have said, since they've been on the board. So we have been selectively not enforcing covenants for quite some time now. If that's what we want to continue to do, I'm going to just say, I don't even know why we need to even quibble or disagree with one another. Let's call the vote when the time comes, and we'll see how it falls. I believe that Mr. Gross has a great idea. We need to codify what we're going to go for, the important things, and I think we need to do those things consistently. And I think that there are some covenants that are just too stupid to even address. And I think we can use this from the
advice of our attorney, like it or not, this business judgment discretion, just like the county does, just like Mr. Cross was talking about a law enforcement does, you enforce the laws that you think are worth enforcing, some you don't.
Just a few points. I totally agree with Greg. The way I interpret covenants is just like he does. But the issue at hand is the Colorado legislature just passed a bill requiring us to do this if we do one of two things, or both. And until that is ruled as unconstitutional, and it very well may be something, we, to follow the law that currently exists, and if we want to do design and any type of covenant enforcement, even a letter without a fine, we're mandated to do this until it's ruled unconstitutional. I don't agree with it either, but it's a mandate, and it doesn't take a lot of courage to vote for a issue that's mandated by our legislature. That doesn't take a lot of courage.
Good thought, just for the community. I don't know, what about the idea, because like, I agree with the idea, you let one thing go, you've made the thing not a thing. If you're gonna do selective, guaranteed anybody who's of the chosen group that is going to be fined and threatened or whatever, anybody in that would reasonably say, well, if others aren't for other reasons, then that gives me room to go to court over the, whatever grounds that gives you. And if the only way you're gonna get differences in covenants, which could include better language, all those things, is the 51% or whatever, that might just be easier instead of trying to find these ways that create conflict and don't even seem to have teeth anyway, of just agreeing to say, let's suspend the idea we're going to try and enforce things that we don't even know how to do, put in the work so that one day, if the community decides at that time, we do like covenants compared to not having them, because the others will let go, then you create some and you have both among the community so that you get that 51%, and you get a list of covenants with better language and a better structure to how to enforce them. That was created at both with your guys' part and the community's part. And it'll take the work, but it sure beats the idea of alienating whatever group of citizens to have conflict with when they just like to have the simplicity of their landowner rights because they own land. That's reasonable.
Thank you. Work. Anything else from the public? Close the public hearing on the updated CCATC policy. And reopen the regular meeting.
Okay, next we have approval of the minutes for November 26th for a regular meeting and CCAAC.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes both for the regular meeting on November 26th, 2024, and the CCACC minutes for November 26th, 2024.
Move in second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Move to approve. Bills payable.
Okay, next we have bills payable. Ledger in front of you.
Chair, I make a motion to approve bills.
Second.
Move in second. Discussion, question.
I do have a question or discussion item on the NOCO Engineering Company billing. They charge us $1,210 for somebody to come down here to discuss that project.
Yeah.
I think in the future, maybe we can just do that via Zoom meeting, as opposed to paying them $110 an hour to drive in here and tell us nothing.
I believe that was the one that we had that was for the grant to give public input.
Yeah, we're just, when we're dealing with that type of charge per hour, we can do it with phone or Zoom meeting or something, as opposed to having to drive in whatever charge us that entire.
nice meeting out for that.
Is that 38308 is the one you're talking about?
That's the
Second line.
Yeah, $1,210.
And broken down on the, and basketball.
It shows up on a couple of pages.
Wish I made that better.
I remember that meeting, there was not a lot of definitive answers.
No, there wasn't.
Yeah, anything else? I have a couple of questions. So, telephone reimbursement. That's really a pretty standard $30. Why did cost you only get reimbursed $25.50?
So, so unfortunately, or it's not unfortunately, but she's learning and she's in the learning process. So that is something that we are letting roll through so she can look at it and learn.
But it should be more than $30.
That's correct.
Let me say,
We paid $74 for a pair of tires at Ace Hardware.
Who did?
Yeah, they did. $74 for a pair of tires.
and Gary,
I chewed him out over that too.
For NASA.
That's a good point. I'm just there, we work on it.
I would suggest we return them.
Remember the one.
Was it required? I mean.
I wanted to see this.
And we return them?
At this point, probably not.
Probably.
Well, who
It
should be
ain't
liable?
gonna be- it ain't gonna happen again, that's for sure.
Somebody should be happy.
Well, let's not execute somebody with their pliers, but I agree.
I agree with you too.
So on that note, just on that note, there are stipulations. I mean, Ace knows that if it's over $50, it does require a PO. So they don't willy-nilly just roll in there and do things like that. So it did have to actually have a PO, which is authorized through the office, and then that's how it came to everybody's attention, was it has to be signed by a supervisor at that point in time. So it's not, it's known, and it had been talked about.
If that was known, how did it ever get authorized?
So when whomever walked in and the purchase was over $50, they know that they have to call and get a PO. So a PO can be obtained once it is over that $50, but it does have to be approved by the supervisor at that point. So at that point, when the $74 was acknowledged, that was a ridiculous amount, that's when it was brought to that employee's attention, and that it will never happen. We do have those policies in place.
A pretty heavy chunk of that Ace Hardware stuff, and it looked to me like they're just kind of shopping for them. It's kind of handy. Also, a bunch of little purchases. I would think we'd be able to call in and have those pulled and go down and pick them up rather than stop and buy and go shopping. I think that Mr. Davis brought that up.
I mean, and I kind of wonder if there's some things that they were adapted and things like that. I wonder if they were looking at them. Yeah,
Well, could be. I hope it wasn't.
Might have just been running into things over and over again to get up there.
But if making a trip for each $6 item,
Well,
it doesn't make sense.
if they didn't know what they needed, when you're
I've
in
done
that,
that before.
when you're in that.
When I'm working on something, end up making 15 trips and getting nothing accomplished.
I guess that was the impression a lot when I worked at the lake. That one where I was-
And the next thing is, yeah, we gotta pick up, well, I mean, Alamo 45 and a cap. Well, you get there, got it put on, and all of a sudden it's like, no, this isn't gonna work.
Especially with plumbing, like, it's in
It should have been taken back, returned. Anyway, I'm not happy with obviously the pliers kind of took me over there.
And a lot of it,
$74.
I don't, but
And a lot of it too is,
And that's-
I went through this,
That is.
a lot of it is probably.
Were they drone fires or?
All right, that's all I have. Anybody else? Let's vote on paying the bill. All in favor of paying the bill, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Pay the bill.
Chairman, I'm gonna take a powder. You guys go ahead without me.
It's that long.
It's good.
Okay, Jim, let's go to
Operational reports. Okay, I'll start off with the golf course. The, pro shop 2024 revenue for November was $9,994. Last year was $14,000. We had a lot more snow and colder days in November this year. So year to date, I never thought we'd make it, but we were at $541,000 for golf course location. Compared to last year,
Awesome.
400 million. So that was, it also shows in health too, because we ended up having to figure it more out now. Like I said, there was only 11 days. Right now we are going through cards. I did call Colorado Golf and Turf, and they sent down a check, and we went through our cards looking at things that are still under warranty, and we're getting things replaced and moving ahead. As for maintenance, of course, last greens mowed was 11:25. Snow mold was added on, some greens were rubbed off, control geese, winter maintenance has started. CTF, major purchases, capital purchases was the Johnson, two of the Johnson GP 400 green mowers, two Johnson green themed fours plus greens teeth mowers, one Johnson AR large rough mower, and one large Toro Workman, a utility truck. There was some electrical valves that were added into it, a 10-inch valve for frontline irrigation, international tractor bucket, and wood blade, Toro blade for sound and Toro bunker unit, and new green reels to replace old ones on our other. So with the money that CTF gave us, was $90,000, we used it all up
Good.
and bought a lot of equipment, $70,000.
That was last year's CTO.
Yeah. So we'll be turning that into Pueblo to get our money back out of it. Parks and Rec, day to day, we have some tree damages from snow that we're able to get cleaned up after the snow melted. We did some maintenance to parking lots at the lake, the rec center, and to make it through the winter. We plan to have road base in the spring after flowering. The small parking lots at the lake have not been a high priority for plowing in the past due to lack of equipment and manpower. You now have two plow trucks and an ATV with the plow, so we hope to get all the parking lots cleared to prevent ruts and damage due to mud. We also have seasonal employees who will help when needed. Sports basketball registration is open and will close December 15th. We are making changes to the program and we'll be running practice during the week at Rye Elementary. We will have a Parks and Rec employee, Parks and Rec, and so employee at all practices to make sure that school is taken care of and rules are followed. Games will still be held at Craver on Saturdays. We will use Christmas break to organize the program, and practice will start after break. Wastewater, Cold Springs Water Plant produced 2 million gallons of water. Tank 3 is now full. Beckwith plant produced 15.2 million gallons, keeping tanks 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, and 4 full. We have been switching out filters after they have been cleaned and pinned. The new filters that we purchased are in Skid 2, 32 and 48, and new and we just received another 24 new. Looking forward to painting of the tanks. We are waiting for PRV to be built. Then we can move forward, tank two. The wastewater plant received 9.27 million gallons of raw sewage, treated and returned 1.4 million. We are just under national average, 70% water produced to flush. We are moving forward with the VFD project is moving forward as we are getting everything repriced. I also included the letter you probably sent out from Claire. Did an excellent job on it. Next we have Beckwith, easy on the there was minimal changes for the last 2 weeks. We went from 13.8 feet in the lake to 14 last week. As I said, as your P12, there was no change in P4 was 0.1 deeper. P5 was 2 point something deeper. Everything else was at the same for this last week. Like with, for the weekly report we turned in, it had, like I said, 0.2 difference. We're dry in the 4, 6, there was no change. Seep was dry. We're still at 0.1. It was dry, and inspections were done by Greg. I have for operational.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
tank level, 3,
Yep, it's full.
full. I feel good.
Within a foot.
Nice.
That's with the 240, right? 54. 54. Good job.
So along the tank line, where are we at,
We just got a, deal that we're reviewing, Gary, I, Greg, and Aiden, as to, tank one and how we are going to be able to transfer water to 4, plus also keep everybody water downhill. So, it's gonna, the engineers that sent the diagram on it, it's going to take a bladder tank, which is gonna be 44,000 gallons. 40,000. 40,000 gallon bladder tank that we could set up next to it, but we're gonna have to repipe it in to make the changes. As for tank 2, we're still waiting for the PRV, stated there, to get it in place so we can finish up tank 2. Hopefully I'm trying to get it scheduled so that those will be done by May. Which will,
what about, not tank 3?
in tank 3, we can evaluate after we get through with all of this to get to tank 3.
I'm just saying, that's money that was appropriated
I know.
a long time ago, and there's been a sea change, and it might go away. I'm just saying, we gotta step on the gas.
Yeah, we're trying to get it completed.
Okay, ladies. We have a,
So,
who's that, who? That was you right there. This is-
it might have been ghost written.
I didn't. Who's next?
Let's see, there.
No, I did it, Greg did it,
All I know is I'm after him.
so I believe it's the chairman.
Oh, there you go.
Terminal.
That's good to miss the people.
Actually, it's not the chairman, it's actually Sarah.
I think it's you.
Then the chairman,
Then the chairman started it.
I think so. Right?
1, 2,
So,
3,
Sarah.
4 months. Wonder if I could slide out of that somehow.
What is it, Greg? Trying to get out of it before you go.
Say goodbye.
Yeah.
Do we have anything? We don't have any attorneys.
No,
You want to,
move the agenda. So, first is resolution 14-2024 coming.
well,
Mr. Chairman, It'll be me. I make a motion to go forward with, resolution 14-204, county policy.
I'll second it. Discussion.
Yes, I'd like to see that amended for number 8, new construction, to specifically point out that it applies to units 1 through 45 only. So there's no redundancy in the HOAs. And that the fine structure is to be determined based on pursuant that we get together with the architecture community to prioritize governments we're going to enforce. High priority, low priority. Not that we're going to not enforce any, but prioritize them, and so people know what we're going to be looking at.
Would you accept that?
I would accept that. I would accept that. I don't want to rephrase it all, if you don't mind, or if you don't mind. But I would accept that because, I think that this is a working document. I don't think that this policy is where we want it at all. I don't think Mr. Collins is happy. I'm not necessarily happy. I know Mr. Gross isn't happy. I know Sarah's not happy. Miss Hunter. It's kind of ugly right now, to be
Yeah,
honest.
it's real ugly.
I do like what Clint said just now about prioritizing rather than picking covenants out. I think prioritizing is a lot better way to
Okay.
show
And like I said,
district out of trouble than to.
Okay, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to do this. Mr. Chairman, I withdraw my previous nomination. And I would like to go forward and, to motion that we adopt, where is it? Covenant policy 14-2024, excluding covenants 1 through 45.
Excluding,
I'm sorry, excluding excluding units 1 through 40, including units 1 through 45. Prioritizing which covenants we're going to enforce. And what was the last one?
the fine structure to be determined.
Okay, and we making the fine structure negotiable.
Starting out at 0.
Okay. Starting out at 0.
Good job, Ray.
Not really. But
Good job, Mr. Davis.
thank you. Thank you for that.
So Neil, did you get all of that to help me insert?
And
You still gonna second it?
so, adopt 14-2024, including units only. 1 through 45 only.
Yeah, that goes with number 12 throughout the entire doc.
We're prioritizing which covenants to enforce with fine structure to be determined.
And the fine structure needs to be in writing and disseminated throughout the community prior to implementation of the fines.
Okay, but doesn't the to be determined cover that?
Not really.
I didn't get it right.
It has to be, if you also disseminate to the
Just have to listen to it over and over and think that. Get it right.
I don't know.
Here we go.
And yes, I that coverage. As you redid it. Oh, yeah. Oh, any other discussion, questions? Let's vote. Ray,
No.
chair votes yes. Ray,
Yes.
Sarah? Clint,
Reluctantly, yes.
pass 3-2. All right, move on to the next one.
Okay. Resolution 15-2024, road policy for. Second reading. Special action.
It's,
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we adopt road policy. That's supposed to be the second reading, after second reading.
Yeah.
Resolution 15-2024.
move and second discussion question. I guess my question is, as it is redlined,
Yeah, they just really changes.
okay. Question, discussion? Let's vote. Clint,
Yes.
Ray,
Yes.
chair votes yes. Ray?
Yeah.
Sarah?
Okay, next you have resolution 16-2024, adopting 2025 budget.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we adopt the 2025 budget.
Move and second. Questions? Discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
I'd like to thank the board members who served on the subcommittee. Appreciate it.
I'd like to thank also Leo on that. Finding our, going through it, finding little mistakes that I might have forgot. It's great.
All right, let's vote. Sarah? Ray?
Yes.
Ray?
Yeah.
Clint?
Yes.
No, I'm the same type of stuff.
We have, resolution 17-2024, resolution to set mill levy, resolution, to set mill property, no, resolution that on the property taxes for the year 2024 to help defray the costs of the government for Colorado City Metropolitan District.
Mr. Chairman, I like to make a motion to certify the mill levy. Second.
Move and second. Questions, discussion?
I just want to commend the district for saving the taxpayers money.
I agree. I think that we need to, in the newsletter, we probably need that.
Yeah, we're setting the mill levy lower than what
We did last
they
year.
know what we did last
I understand, so we are trying to get things done. All right, let's go.
And also that, set of money for grants and that's, which was what we promised people.
Where are you going?
Yes.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Well, okay. We don't have any ACT.
No, this is old business. Okay, old business, we got the road resolution done. Been busy. We have audit in process. We're almost finished with it. Well repair. I talked to you yesterday. Today, we finally got back to me. They are looking at probably going to get it all done. We did talk to the insurance. They look like they are going to, the insurance will cover, the golf course well. So the wells are all being done by the insurance. He said we will probably get you in at the beginning of next year. He said, well, with the snow and stuff, it's kind of hard to get into where we need you now. Budget committee, like to thank them for all their input and help. North Parkway, Water situation, I do have a meeting with our lawyers tomorrow, and then we will be meeting with, the, South Park lawyers, on Thursday, on Zoom. So I'll have anything, I will be glad to forward it to the board as to what we're looking at and going further with it. As for the North Park Sewer Project, we have 3 of the pumps in out of the 4. We just need 1 more. I did get a thank you, note from Marlon, and, them are very happy with what we did. And, we understand, yeah, this was a problem. They weren't pushing it down. So, all we have is 1 house left, which is the west house on the north side. The east house on the west.
Is your situation improving there?
Yes, it has. I was called Friday, that there was water coming out. Ran over there, somebody had turned one of our cleanup, all valves open, and it was coming out of there. And that went down to the manhole, and that was running that piece. Well, that pipe is,
We realize that this is a thing of the past.
yes, it is. I'm hoping to.
You did back the North Park water issue. To be clear, you're talking about the sewer branches.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
And we still don't know though for sure on Stewart Ranch whether or not we shut them off or not.
Well, from findings, I have right now, Gary's son's calling me that he's turned over the property and, to them, and they're calling to find out what they can do and what needs to be done, all that. But explain to them that it is in the lawyer's hands right now because of, Ms. Jordan has hired a lawyer. He says, well, they aren't representing us. And I said, well, I can't give you any more information until I know what the lawyers are going to say. I don't know what we receive.
Yeah. And Gary, water plant. Yeah, I know, but I mean production as far as if you noticed the difference. And
We've slowed down on fire.
so what I'm saying is, if you notice the difference from now to last year, and maybe we can contribute it to the ranch being cut off.
I believe so. Yes. I haven't looked at the exact numbers, but I will.
If you could get numbers to us for next meeting, possibly, or maybe the meeting after.
Probably the meeting after, because next meeting's taking place, right?
It's going to be trying to be quick one too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because it's,
but if you can get us meetings for maybe when we come back from Christmas,
I can maybe give you a handout there.
Something that's, an idea.
Yeah.
Of what we're saving since we cut them off.
And yeah.
and there's some research in that we ain't going to have to do too.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to take the old business just a little bit out of order to make this next thing make sense. Part of the reason that we got the letter today from the state was because all of a sudden they're calling us out on water loss, which means that in our old business, we've got this meter change out that we've already discussed a couple of times, and we've talked about subcontracting, and we've got the AWWA water loss audit. Now, all of a sudden, these are factors. We need to, I know it's the wrong time of year, but we need to make that old business new business and get after it. Thank you.
Meter change out.
Maybe change out where
Can you touch it up for-
he's trying to get contractors to come in and do. And like I said, we also look at how we can make it quick because most likely we're going to have to shut down the street for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, but
Yeah.
so we've also looked at a game plan of doing it as, okay, why can't we go in and change out the curb stops, which are in the meter pit, pull them out, put new ones in so that you can shut it off per meter. And so we're looking at that aspect too, as okay, one day, you might shut down for one day, change out your meter stops, and then, okay, we're at that point that now you might only have 2 or 3 that you can get to that we have to deal with, but that one day would be a shutdown to change out those.
So are you still talking about subcontractors?
Well, just even us to shut off, but we're also looking at subcontractors to get the ones that are the hardest ones, because that's been the biggest holdup, from what I'm understanding now, is they can't pull that meter to put in a new meter because the meter stop isn't. Well, change meter stop. It doesn't mean that you have to, you got the whole thing to change
The
it.
subcontract issue, then, we gave you a deadline there for.
Yeah, and I have that, the end of January, we'll have to have everything set up.
And then that AWWA loss. We've got to get after that. One.
That's all of a sudden it's real important.
No, I don't know.
All right. So
So, I just got in contact with him, he, called me back and we're playing phone tag right now. So I'm gonna be talking to him probably tomorrow. Camelot, Rosemont, that's on the list for them to get, their pins so that we know what we need to do there.
we'll see where that, Bill.
Yeah, he's aware of it, you know, and I gave him pictures.
Where are we on his calendar?
I do not know.
We should know that.
When we can get that.
Nothing new about the HED probably.
No, I haven't heard of it yet. They're supposed to vote on it, and they're final, but I don't know when it's gonna be on the agenda.
Any other old business?
Just the one that I had, we went over, and that was the water lease. My position on that was, did we send a cover letter from the attorney? Did you do that?
Not yet, I'm still dealing with Richard on that.
We need to do that before the thaw.
Yeah. Yeah, before, I'm trying to get it done before the first of the year.
Okay, that would be good. We should.
Mr. Chairman, I have one open business. You know, a while back, Mr. Collins brought up looking into a different attorney, and I would like to reiterate, looking into a different attorney. I think this covenant issue has been made much more confusing than it needed to be, based on information we received from our attorney. And between the timing and the confusion, I think we need to look into a different attorney.
I will, and I'll make myself a freaking note here. Otherwise I'm gonna forget. But I'll make a phone call tomorrow.
I will say that reading stipulations and the background on the law was much simpler going on websites than trying to wade through what our attorney knows. Unnecessarily complicated.
I have a couple of leads on a couple of them. One is a group out of Springs. They handle, they have a team of, about 40 lawyers. They deal with,
That sounds like expense.
yeah,
So SBA.
get onto the SDA and find out.
What? A new business, or I should, any other old business?
Just to cap on the water situation. Have you set up the meeting
Yes, it's for Thursday at 3 o'clock.
at 3 o'clock?
Yeah.
Cool, good.
He said, okay with it. I texted him.
Did you?
Yeah.
My wife probably put it in my calendar
It is.
and told me, and she's probably going to tell me like that day, hey, hon, you got a meeting tonight. But, okay, but anyway, the county's coming down here. We're gonna talk to them about the, use of a water truck and possibly the use of a, roller too. And it sounds pretty promising.
Sweet, thank you for that.
All I had to do is blow Zach's phone up about 50,000 times before he got it home.
Now you're already not gonna tell them. And explain myself. Both of those, they live here now.
Yeah.
Any other old business? New business? Tom? What else? So let's put the new attorney, I think we'll move like this. Ray said, let's move the AWWA. Oh, we need to get action on it. And then the new attorney can put that into act. What is the new date? Anybody? Correspondence? Nothing, no?
Oh, there is, in the past, we've done, gift card for our employees. Last year, I think it was 150.
What are you saying?
I'd like to do it again.
Okay.
Full-time employees.
You need a resolution now. Next time, what do you think?
Is it more than $5,000?
I mean, now,
So, it just needs to be,
and then we'll come up with a number. Well, now you sit down and pick out a number, or
what's board think?
I'm fine with it.
I'm on board. Well, it sounds like a traditional thing, so. Well, then, I think we need to do a formal action.
As long as it's under $5 grand.
I think kind of waiting just a little bit of help with it. What do you think, no?
Employee bought the hammer, should get it.
we take it from
What if there was a principal?
I mean, I know what I give my employees for Christmas bonuses,
$12.
but I don't think you guys would want to give, because I give my employees $5 a piece.
That's what it
See where I said it.
Now that would be over 5,000.
What do you think?
Because we have,
My employees make me a lot of money, so.
Well, honestly, I don't think we can answer this question. I think it, I would like to do a little bit more than 150, because that's what last year was. It's been a grueling year for our staff.
I got that one.
So, yeah, I would go up, sure.
There are 250.
15 employees.
15. Let's go through.
How many full-time employees you
Who's gonna make the motion?
got? $300 a piece. Gonna sign up just for all of these?
We don't want to set a
Said
precedent.
full-time employees, okay?
We don't want to set a precedent.
Right.
Let's keep it under 5,000. I think 3.
We'll work that.
This
You got too much money too.
all I know is it's good to appreciate people that do all the work.
Great
Everybody too.
I got a Christmas bonus when I worked on the all for every year you worked. A lot of, and they took that.
Wow.
So you got $100 back.
No, I like getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and having a nice warm shower, because those guys worked all night to fix the water. just say.
Take your money.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll second that.
We're adjourned.
Yeah, but it's-